Okay. Let's slide down up the arrow screen over a minute. Or you just click it.
Start your show.
Huh?
Start your show.
Hello, this is Professor Charles Jeffries, working for Rainier Radio, and today we're going to talk about the Dunning Kruger effect, okay, and Galton's myth, okay, and talking about Dunning Kruger. Dunning Kruger was effect is or phenomena is basically it's a social psychology phenomena that states intelligent people tend to underestimate how smart they are, and stupid people tend to overestimate how smart they are. Which brings us to Francis Galton's myth. Okay, Francis Galton was Charles Darwin's cousin, and one of the statements he made, in terms of the dumbest white person in the world is more intelligent than the smartest black person in the world. And any teacher will tell you that's not true. So some of Francis Galton. Francis Galton, he was Charles Darwin's cousin. And he's basically, his credit is that he introduced statistics to psychology, particularly the use of the bell curve. Okay, and he studied individual differences, shapes of head, reaction time, and he's also considered to be the inventor of one of the first mental abilities tests. And the interesting thing about it is he's considered to be the most intelligent person in the world because he got a perfect score on the test that he invented. Okay. But back to Galton's myth, it states that the dumbest white person in the world is better or more intelligent than the smartest black person in the world. Another individual who's another founder of psychology, G. Stanley Hall, the first president of the American Psychological Association, said that blacks, Indians, and Chinese are members of adolescent races and could only do manual labor. They weren't capable of doing any high executive forms. Herbert Spencer, he's the one who came up with the concept social Darwinism. Okay, the term survival of the fittest. Okay, and basically these theories and these individuals were used to justify Europeans dominating over other people. In other words, wiping out the Native Americans, enslaving the Africans, and oppressing other people all over the world. I mean, thanks to Spencer and Galton and G. Stanley Hall and various others, it's okay. Not only that, it's scientific proof that these people were inferior. Okay. And then William McDougall and others. But what they're saying is back to the whole idea. The assumption is when you talk about all these people are more intelligent than all these people, they assume that's two separate curves. In other words, say the red curve is one group of people and the blue curve is the other. They assume that they don't really interact. In real life, whenever you do compare groups, it's a curve like this. In other words, it's more overlapping. You have a lot of black people who are more intelligent than the majority of white people. You have a lot of white people who are less intelligent than the majority of black people. Okay. Lyndon Johnson talked about if you make a poor white feel superior to a black person, the most intelligent and greatest black person, you can pick his pocket. In other words, what Johnson is saying is you can play on poor whites in order to control them by making them feel that, well, you're white and you're poor and you don't have anything going for yourself, but at least you're better than those people over there. Okay. It's not. Oh, got the next slide this way. Okay, let's talk about when you look at this in terms of red states versus blue states. I mean, in terms of looking at those overlapping curves. In other words, a curve where the number of white Americans are less intelligent than the majority of black folks. Okay, and when you really it comes down to red states versus blue states. Okay, red states representing, quote, Republican-led legislatures, Republican senators. Okay, and blue states pretty much represent Democrats. If you look at it in terms of red states versus blue states, red states actually people have a higher standard of living than people in the blue states. Okay, because you have first video. Okay, and this particular individual is going to explain that a little bit clearer in terms of looking at the contrast between red states and blue states.
I want to talk a little bit about red states and blue states today and the massive failure that would be a country of red states. You know, for all of their talk about rugged individualism and pulling yourself up by your bootstraps and personal responsibility, red states are doing a lot of bootstrapping right out of the wallets of the people working and living and paying taxes in the blue states. Now, I've talked to you before when these Republicans come up with these secessionist ideas. I've explained to you many times, if you took the red states and they became their own country in this sort of like secession wet dream that Republicans have, they would be an economic train wreck. They are propped up entirely by federal subsidies and the productivity of the progressive blue states. MAGA ideology loves to claim that they are about self-sufficiency, but the numbers paint a picture of dependency that would make Ayn Rand weep, even though she was a big, strong woman. Red states routinely reject federal government programs like the Obamacare Medicaid expansion that I mentioned earlier. They leave millions uninsured while claiming that they're fighting against big government. And meanwhile, these very same states are the largest takers of federal dollars, using blue state tax revenue to fund their roads and their schools and their public services. The MAGA Republicans love to scream freeloaders at us in the blue states, but they are the freeloading states. Instead of taxing the wealthy or taxing corporations, red states lean very heavily on sales taxes, which disproportionately affect low-income residents. And it's this regressive system that stifles economic mobility and makes inequality even worse. You've got the anti-union laws, especially right-to-work policies. It keeps wages low, it keeps workers powerless, and this will drive many of the skilled workers to blue states where unions can still negotiate fair pay for them. It's really not a coincidence that the states most hostile to unions, most hostile to organized labor, are the states that have the highest rates of poverty. So you've got these red states pouring energy into banning books and targeting trans kids and restricting access to reproductive health services. And instead, they don't address housing shortages. They don't address poverty. They don't address access to healthcare. They don't address the fact that were it not for the blue states, they couldn't even survive. When your biggest legislative priority is making sure that 13-year-olds don't get to read Handmaid's Tale in school, it's not exactly a surprise that your economy is tanking. And data shows that people are leaving red states for blue ones in certain high-skilled areas and professions.
All right, so let's kind of go over what they're talking about there. Okay, the contrast, and that's the really kind of joke about it in terms of the last election. It's going to hurt a lot of the people who voted for him than it will other people. And let's talk about in terms of advantages and disadvantages. Talking about red states versus blue states. Blue states going to have a better quality of health care. They have a better quality infrastructure. They're going to have, terms of quality of education, less number of people with college degrees, higher amount of unemployment. Okay, and all these pretty much talking about that. And we're now with this anti-abortion and oppression in Texas and Florida, a lot of your teachers, your best teachers and your best doctors are leaving the state. Okay, it's really interesting. People from West Virginia talking about their talking in favor of building the wall of Mexico. But the problem with West Virginia is more people are leaving than going into West Virginia. And so actually, if they're going to build a wall, they just probably build a wall to keep people from leaving West Virginia. Okay. But this brings up a term, hillbilly. Hillbilly is referred to people primarily in Appalachia. They tend not to be very bright. They're not very well educated. Standard of living is really low for them. And these are the individuals, a good deal of these individuals, I'll say maybe the majority of these individuals voted for Donald Trump, who's going to cut a lot of these programs that they depend on. And let's talk about, I always hear people talk about the wealth gap between white and black. Okay, let's look at let's talk about poverty for a minute. There are 24 million white Americans who live below the poverty line. There's 7 million African Americans who live below the poverty line. So look at the numbers. 24 million whites who live below the poverty line, 7 million African Americans who live below the poverty line. So therefore, that's an overlapping curve, if anything else. Okay, whenever you say unemployment, crime, where they go? They go to the inner cities where you see mostly black and brown people. Okay, but let's talk about poverty rate. Okay, the average poverty rate in the United States is about 12%. Okay, West Virginia's poverty rate in West Virginia is 16%. African Americans' poverty rate in the United States is 17%. And looking at the states that have the lowest poverty rate will be Nebraska, Virginia, and Washington State, which is right around 10%. Okay, let's look at the states with the highest poverty rate. Louisiana, 18% poverty rate. Okay, remember I said African Americans are 17% poverty rate. Mississippi, 23% poverty rate in the state of Mississippi. Like I said, African Americans only 17%. New Mexico, 25% poverty rate. Okay, West Virginia 16, Kentucky 16, and so forth. Okay, and most of the majority of these states who have the highest poverty rate are your red states, with the exception of New Mexico and New York. Okay, let's go even deeper. Let's look at Kentucky, particularly Eastern Kentucky. Okay, Wolfe County, they have a poverty rate of 38%. Okay, in other words, 38% of the people in Eastern Kentucky live below the poverty rate. And median income there is $22,000 a year. Let's look at McGuffin County, Kentucky. 51% of the people who live in McGuffin County, Kentucky, live below the poverty. And these aren't black people. These aren't black people. These are poor whites. Think about 51% McGuffin County, Kentucky, 51%. Okay, the people living in McGuffin County live below the poverty line. Okay, remember I said African Americans, 17%. Okay. And Appalachia in general is right around 25%, okay, of Americans in Appalachia. That's talking about West Virginia, North Carolina, Western Virginia, okay, and Eastern Kentucky. All these, the poverty rate is really, and like I said, what is it? 25%, 1 out of every 4 people in Appalachia live below the poverty rate. Okay, let's go to Southern Ohio, Scioto County, Ohio. That's actually not too far from where I grew up, but Scioto County, Portsmouth, if you know where that is. Think about the poverty rate here. It's 23% poverty rate. Okay, 23% poverty rate, 23%, almost 1/4 of the population in Scioto County lives below. And these aren't black people; these are white folks. Okay, living below the poverty line. And the thing about it is, unemployment rate in Scioto County is fairly healthy. It's 4% unemployment. Okay, that means that if you're talking about almost 1 out of 4 people live below the poverty line, and the unemployment rate is only 4%, that means these are mostly working poor people. Okay, working every day and still struggling financially. Now, could you show the second video? The second video actually goes to southeastern Ohio, okay, and goes and discuss that particular series of events that's going on there. During the presidential debate, Trump said that the people there were eating pets, which was not true. However, this was the people in Ohio's response to that situation.
Springfield, Ohio is very much comprised of, the default, we'll say, white person, okay? I don't mean that in any type of negative way, but that's what they are. You have a lot of PWTs, as I would call them. In this case, to be YouTube friendly, you have a lot of poor whites in Springfield, Ohio. That's what you have. These are, I would say, the forgotten whites. in most cases, right? The forgotten whites, because these aren't the whites that are on TV. These aren't the whites that they want to say, hey, look, they're the ones that created this. They're the ones that, invented this. No, these are those that they want to, sweep under the rug. That's what these are. And this guy's going around just asking them questions. And when I say idiocracy, I truly mean idiocracy, okay? Because first thing out of this one dude's mouth is he calls the Haitians a bunch of sand monkeys. I kid you not. And he just freely says it. He's like, those freaking sand monkeys. This is when a bunch of Haitians, two Haitian guys, like they wave, smiling, hey, how you doing? And he's like repulsed by, hey, don't wave at me, you freaking sand monkey. I don't want you here and everything.
Don't wave at me, you sorry sand monkey. I tell them like it is, man. I don't like them. I don't like them, and I want them to know I don't like them. Pack up and move back to Haitieville, where the you're from.
So I want you to understand, this is whiteness in its pure form. And what I mean by whiteness, I mean as the general concept that's established by Lyndon Johnson, right? We're talking about, hey, if you can get the poorest of the poorest whites to believe that they're superior to the colored, then you can get in their pockets, all right? As long as they're focused on why, the sand monkeys and everything, then you can do anything you want. And that is such emblematic of Trump's base, because it's a bunch of very uneducated, lower class white people. It just is what it is. Very low of the low white people. And, many, many upper class white people, even middle class white people, have their nose up to them. All right. They don't want to see them. They don't even want to know that they exist. There's someone who hates poor white people than anyone on the face of the planet, and that is a non-poor white person. They absolutely despise them because they make them look bad. They make them look inferior in many cases. So you don't see it on the TV. What do you see on TV? Oh, look, it's a black person doing the crime. But it's a black person, right? That's what they do to cover their image. But when you get to the heart of the problem when it comes to racism, this is what we have. We have, unfortunately, a large swath of poor whites who stem from an older period. And they're still under the complex of, hey, my skin gives me protection. I'm superior due to me being a white American. I'm superior, because of the color of my skin. That's where they come from. And you have this dude asking questions, right, about the Haitians eating cats. And you have all these white people going, especially this one corpulent woman who was talking about, yeah, they're getting thousands of dollars, okay? They're getting $5,000, all right? And you know what? I saw it on a Facebook post where it was a van and it was a Haitian immigrant and he had nothing but cats. And he said they were eating the cat.
There was Haitians in a white van driving around the neighborhoods, collecting cats, skinning them and eating them.
In my opinion, they're worthless. Bunch of worthless sand monkeys.
They're getting thousands of dollars in government assistance, even the cash assistance cards. They're calling them the magic money cards because they never run out.
I heard on Twitter that cats are getting kidnapped. Is that true?
Yes, my mom actually seen a post on Facebook. There was Haitians in a white van driving around the neighborhoods collecting cats.
For what?
Skinning them and eating them.
And you have, PWT after PWT after PWT. And it's honestly, I don't know, it makes me feel sad. It's like, oh, so, as Paul Mooney would say, what a waste of white skin. What a waste. It's so sad to see someone so uneducated, so naive, so gullible. It's completely night and day as how they have managed their image here in the States for the most part, right? They managed their image perfectly, pristine, okay? Pristine. And it's such a night and day from the reality of the situation, the reality of the majority of white people, which are PWTs. They're not, the Bill Gates. That's not a reflection of most white people. But these are the forgotten whites that, other white people don't want you to know about. They don't want to see them. They don't want to hear them. They don't want to talk about them. And this is what you have. You have nothing but a bunch of uneducated, poor, racists. Hey, there's sand monkeys. Hey, I saw on my Facebook post, oh, there's a rumor going around. Oh yeah, they're buying up the houses.
Like, I've heard rumors about them taking the geese and killing them and eating them, so I try to stay clear away, because I've even heard about them eating the eggs over there, so I'm like, okay, that's kind of disturbing. Not.
There is.
Now, I want you to understand how dumb you have to be to even, it's humorous if it wasn't so sad. Because let's think about this. They're saying that they're getting $5,000 in food stamp, government assistance, which isn't true.
How much money does the government give you per month?
Pero el food stamp me doy como primera vez te pusieron como 500, segunda 300.
Nowhere near are they going to give anywhere in any state 5 racks. That's not happening. But nevertheless, they probably saw a Facebook post or a Twitter post or an Instagram post, and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe it. They're giving them that much money. So once again, they're poor and they're dumb. Horrible combination. And they're racist. Really bad combination. So now you have that, right? Let's say, for example, these Haitians are giving $5,000, right? They're getting $5,000. Now, they also go to say that the Haitians are eating cats and dogs. That's what they allege. Well, I heard a myth that they were going around. I saw a van, a whole bunch of cats in there, and, that's what's happening. Let me get this straight. The Haitian immigrant, right, that is getting 5,000 plus, if not more, right, in food stamps and cash, is now eating cats and dogs? Why, if they have so much cash, why would they succumb to eating cats and dogs? I don't understand.
All right. Think about that in terms of what we're looking at. Okay. In terms of the whole idea of, well, we'll make these people look inferior and make our people look really superior. And by showing the best of the best and not showing the real poverty that's going on. And that's really the thing about it is a lot of these folks who voted for Trump, they're going to be hurt more than you and me are. I mean, in terms of the policies, welfare, you're talking about Obamacare, Medicare, all those cuts are going to hurt them more than going to hurt African Americans in general. I want to make some announcement. High school basketball Thursday, West Seattle versus Rainier Beach. Rainier Beach, I think they have one of the best basketball teams in the state, right? Number one, my bad, number 1 in the state. Okay, and then on Monday, there's a Martin Luther King rally coming up at 11 a.m. Monday. And then there's a new show coming on, Tonight Life, and that's coming on next Monday at 5 p.m. And right after this show, there's going to whole, Seattle Sports. So, and once again, another really exciting program that's coming up. I think you'll find that really, really interesting. Okay, when you stop and think about it. Okay, and I'll be coming on again April 8th. Okay, with another episode of your Aristotle Was a Plagiarist. Let's go back over kind of conclusions, what we're talking about here now. Okay, in conclusion, basically, it's not the image. What you see on television is not what is real to a certain extent. Okay, you see, whenever you're talking about poor and unemployment, and especially, and even yourself, close your eyes and say poor, unemployment, crime. What comes up? What image comes up? Okay, versus what really actually is. We talk about also people be living below the poverty line. You see a large number of whites who live way below the poverty line. There are more whites living below the poverty line than the African Americans or Latinos. But what really is concerning this particular time in history is that it's really going to be really difficult to get accurate information. We're in the age of information, and it's going to be difficult to get accurate information. We talked about last time, I was talking about the idea that, the founder of Facebook, Zuckerberg, came on and said, we're not going to do fact checking anymore. Okay, so these people will come on there and tell all kinds of lies or whatever they want to, and in the name of freedom of speech. And the problem is people getting this, they don't know what's true and what's not true, which is going to cause even more confusion and chaos. And then the individual, Elon Musk, head of X, same thing, freedom of speech. We can say anything you want to say except what he doesn't like. Okay, and he basically cuts it off. But once again, people's access to information. Okay, you also brought up talking about West Virginia in particular, where the large percentage, over half the people in West Virginia don't have access to internet, okay, or high speed internet. And we said part of the population is because of not access to towers, but also some of them just can't afford it. I mean, they're too busy paying groceries and paying their rent or whatever it is, and they're, low paying jobs. So they can't even afford the internet. And so where do they get their information? Fox News. That was one of the things that really I found interesting when I was in Eastern Washington. And going to Eastern Washington, and a lot of the hotels and restaurants and places, they have Fox News as a default station. That's all they. And so if that's all you get then every day, it's all you see is that information, and the same thing, the echo chamber, and then you get Facebook and X all saying the same information that's not true. People believe it. I mean, that actually came out during the Bush administration, the first Bush administration. The whole idea, if you repeat a lie enough, people will believe it. Okay, and so what Fox News and some of these other conservative channels do is create an echo chamber. They're saying things over and over and over again to the point that people don't really know what's true and what's not true. But the problem is they think they know more than they actually do, and that goes back to the Dunning Kruger effect. Okay, intelligent people tend to underestimate how smart they are, and stupid people tend to overestimate how smart they are. And we also talked about our last episode where we talked about stupid people are more dangerous than mean people, mainly because you can't really reason with stupid people. You can't reason with them. Okay, when they get talking, their prefrontal cortex shuts down, and they just repeat the same slogans over and over again and yelling and everything. But you can't reason with them. Okay, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next few months once these policies that Trump puts in place kicks in. Okay, and see how many of these folks still support him. But once again, if they're only getting information from those conservative viewpoints, then therefore that's all they're gonna know. So they may not even know it. I mean, you think about back to the quality of schools in your red states, quality of education in your red states versus your blue states. Okay. And matter of fact, your blue states supplement your red states. Okay. I mean, you're talking about banning books and dealing with individual rights and they're self-destructing. So thanks again. Once again, it's a pleasure working with you. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again on April 8th. And this next show, I think you'll find it really exciting. Charles Jeffries, Rainier Radio, take on your day.